Hi, everybody, and welcome to this month's Tech Jobs Update from Dice News. I'm Mark Pfeffer, the managing editor of Dice News, and I'm here with Don Kawamoto, our associate editor based in Silicon Valley. Hello, Don.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Oh, pretty good.
Good. So let's start by talking about games. There have been some layoffs in the game world recently, but one of the more dramatic things is about BioShock's creator, Irrational Games. They're folding. So what happened?
Yeah. Well, in the case of Irrational Games, with their latest game, Bioshock Infinite, it ended up running over production, and there were delays and whatnot, and so that drove up the production costs, and so as a result, the creator Ken Levine has decided to wind down the company. What Ken is looking at doing is taking about 15 of those employees and joining the Take-Two game developer. And what they plan to do over there is to create these online narrative-driven games that are going to be for core gamers, and kind of changing a little bit about what it is that they were doing. But with layoffs, in the game industry, yeah, they've been going around, like, Lucas Arts, for example, they ended up shutting down. More recently, we've seen Zynga have some massive layoffs. So by no means is Irrational Games kind of, rare in the industry. One thing that Mary Margaret Walker, she's a really well-known games recruiter in the games industry. She says, like, typically when companies are wrapping up their games, that's a time when they'll start laying off is after the games ship. So she's a very strong advocate where people need to, like, manage their career and stay on top of it. They need to be proactive about managing their career. And with that in mind, next month, the Game Developers Conference is going to be happening in San Francisco, and they're going to have job fair booths there. So you'll see, like, Microsoft, the Xbox people, Sony, Warner Brothers, some of the other game studios there looking to hire people.
Layoffs in the game world are kind of cyclical, aren't they? I mean, you touched on this by saying that layoffs tend to happen after a game has shipped. So are a lot of these layoffs related to the fact that a lot of games are just basically wrapping up production?
Often that is the case, where they're wrapping up production. That is so true. It's often the case. That said, though, when you see a whole studio shut down, like LucasArts or, with, Irrational Games, it goes more to the core of their business, not just, oh, we've shipped a game and we're going to cut back staff. So in those cases, it's been a little bit of a different scenario.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about messaging. Last week, Facebook bought WhatsApp for $19 billion.
Yes, big
Is that indicating anything, or is it a predicator of a lot more jobs or anything like that going on in messaging?
Well, in terms of, jobs and IT and messaging, like, one thing is, like, engineers and software developers, they have been in high demand for a while. I mean, you look at the tech unemployment rate, it's like 3.5% last year. So already there's a high demand for, like, engineers and software developers. But that said, if you are doing that kind of work and you work for a messaging company, you're, like, especially hot, in terms of demand. You have not only WhatsApp that got acquired by Facebook, but there's also, like, Snapchat. Some companies have messaging divisions, like you look at Apple, their iMessenger division, or BlackBerry's, BlackBerry Messenger. So even, employees, like, even in these divisions are especially valued, so it's not just, oh, if you work for a messaging company per se, you're going to be in demand, but if you work within that area of messaging, and you're a developer, or an engineer, it makes you, even more attractive. And especially with this acquisition that was done with WhatsApp and for $19 billion, other VCs are taking notice of that and are likely going to be throwing more money at messaging startups. And so with these startups in the messaging space that are getting this more VC funding, typically what happens is they want to expand their staff. That means more hiring of, like, other engineers and developers. For example, like Snapchat, for example, is they're hiring about 50. They want to hire about 50 engineers this year, so they're looking to do hiring. and the kind of skills that both Snapchat and WhatsApp, were looking for before WhatsApp got acquired by Facebook. They're looking for people who have like Objective C skills, Java skills, and as you would expect, kind of a cultural fit to where you have the kind of personality that would do well in a startup climate. So there's a lot of hiring activity to be seen in the messaging space if you're an engineer and developer.
Let's shift gears one more time. Let's talk about for people who are interested in finding a job or just switching jobs. Hackathons. A lot of companies seem to be looking at those as a recruitment tool. Are they a good place to find a job?
They are. Like if you attend like a hackathon put on by a single company, like Google's putting on this hackathon, or Facebook, or it's a company versus like an organization that's being sponsored by several companies. If it's like a single company that's putting on like the hackathon, your odds of finding job opportunities there are greater, because typically these companies will have their hiring managers there, their recruiters there to see how well you code. And also, typically, these companies will have some of their employees there also participating in the hackathon. So they'll get a chance to see what kind of cultural fit you would have with some of their existing employees as well. So, that's a really a good place for a job seeker to kind of go, are those single company kind of hackathons. That said, however, so I was kind of surprised to find that actually only a small percentage of hackathon participants are actually looking for jobs. Usually, the people who attend hackathons, they're there because they love to code. They like to create new things. They like, the thrill of participating in a hackathon. So they're often not actually looking for jobs. And that's caused some backlash for, when you've had recruiters or hiring managers who attend some of these, hackathons and have sponsored the hackathons. Been complaints where they feel like they're entitled to certain things because they sponsored a hackathon. So they may end up like chewing up a lot of the hackathon time, touting their company or touting the jobs they have, when the participants just want to like start hacking. So there's been some backlash that way. Also, there have been cases where people are just busy in the groove, just hacking away, 24 hours, 48 hours. And yet, like, hiring managers or recruiters are kind of rude, where they'll intrude on the hacker while they're like just cramming, and just, going to town with the code, and will intrude and like start talking about, oh, we have these jobs or those jobs, and it's a real turnoff for the participants. So, one thing that ideally that some hackathon organizers say would be more useful is if companies that are looking to hire, that instead of, kind of taking that approach, is that they instead talk about the kind of problems that the company is facing and how they're using their technology to solve those problems. And if the participant seems kind of interested in like learning about, oh, you're doing this kind of problem and you've got this kind of technology you're working with, that, will tend to result maybe the participant inquiring about job opportunities. And then that's the time when, they should be approached about any job opportunity. So
bottom line is, let hackers hack.
Exactly, you got it.
Okay. Well, Don, thanks very much for taking the time to talk today.
Oh, sure thing.
Okay. So that's it for this week. I'm Mark Pfeffer, the managing editor of Dice News. I'm here with Don Kawamoto, our associate editor. We've been talking about things that are going on out in the tech job market. If you have any questions, give us a call or give us a shout at editor@dice.com, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.